There he is.
There we go. Topic for tonight, cyber safety in the digital age. The presentation points out the dangers and offers suggestions that will aid in keeping you secure in the digital era. Using the right programs and apps can help keep you safe, secure, and shrink your digital footprint. Using free programs and apps whenever possible to accomplish this goal is a bonus. This presentation includes information on many recommended free programs. Join me as I guide you in the right direction to enhance your cyber safety in the digital age. I asked my granddaughter to fetch me a newspaper, and she laughed and said, "Grandpa, you're too old, just use my phone." So I slammed her phone against the wall and I killed that big hairy spider. I guarantee you the next time I ask for a newspaper, she'll get it for me. The way we live, work, and play has changed dramatically over the course of the past 50 years. The 9-to-5 economies of years past have been replaced with globally integrated 24/7 service offerings. Consumers in the digital age have access to a host of services and products that would previously have been considered available only in the realm of science fiction. Here's a list of the 10 most dangerous malware and security threats we face for 2022. 10 most dangerous malware and security threats for 2022. Clop ransomware works by encrypting your files and asking you to pay a certain ransom amount to have them decrypted. It's one of the most dangerous and feared ransomware variants, and it mostly targets Windows users. Fake updates is a new strategy that cybercriminals are using to trick users into hacking themselves. They will send fake emails asking you to install an operating system update. Zeus Game Over. This virus mainly targets finances and can easily access your bank account details and get away with all the available funds. News malware attacks. This has become a common trick where hackers use trending news to target unsuspecting people. Social engineering. Cybercriminals are now shifting from computers to humans as they find them weaker and easier to trick. They are using deception to lure them into giving out personal details. AI attacks. Hackers are taking advantage of artificial intelligence technology to create links to help them to get into any system. Cryptojacking. This virus is specifically designed to help hackers mine cryptocurrencies. Freeware. Over 600 million cell phone users have already downloaded this malware without realizing its potential harm. RAAS. Ransomware as a Service. This is one of the most common and popular security threats of the year. IoT device attacks. Hackers target Internet of Things devices, which could be anything from smart devices to your doorbell. Most of these devices do not contain extra security measures, making it easier to manipulate to access data, which the criminals can then use to access your accounts. Currently, phishing is rampant. Phishing attacks are more common than ever before, and they regularly lead to fraud, identity theft, and corporate data breaches. But what is phishing, and how can you avoid it? Please watch the next video for answers to these questions. The rise in remote work, online shopping, and incompetent FCC leadership creates a perfect storm for scammers. Phishing attacks are more common than ever before, and they regularly lead to fraud, identity theft, and corporate data breaches. But what is phishing and how can you avoid it? Phishing is actually a catch-all term for a variety of cybercrimes. But in its most basic form, phishing, pronounced phishing, is a scam in which a victim is tricked into sharing sensitive information or download ransomware. The majority of phishing schemes occur via email or SMS text messages, and they tend to follow a simple formula. Scammers will impersonate someone trustworthy, such as Amazon, a police department, or an employer, and tell you about a problem that requires immediate attention. Usually, the problem can only be solved by sharing credit card details, opening a malicious file, or typing your login data into a fake website. Phishing schemes can be very sophisticated. Scammers may learn details about your employment, subscriptions, family, or location before attempting a phishing attack. If you order shoes from a website that's been hacked, for example, a scammer may send you an email asking to verify the purchase of your login details. And if you're of retirement age, a scammer may impersonate a young family member to beg for bail money. To be perfectly clear, phishing schemes aren't just directed toward individuals. According to a recent Proofpoint report, over 55% of businesses fell victim to a phishing attack in 2020. More than half of these companies ended up with ransomware on their systems. And unfortunately, several of these phishing attacks led to a data breach, which can expose customer information to hackers. Governments are also a huge target for phishing schemes. The CSIS maintains a long list of successful cyber attacks against government organizations, and many of these attacks were enabled by phishing. You need to realize that regular people are the first and only line of defense in a phishing attack. But Proofpoint's data shows that over half of all full-time workers know nothing about phishing. Clearly, businesses and governments aren't educating people on this topic, which is why it's so important to sit down and learn about it yourself. On the next several slides, we'll talk about the most common forms of phishing. First is email phishing. This is the most common form of phishing. A scammer impersonates a popular website or figure, like Amazon or a politician, in an attempt to steal your information or trick you into downloading ransomware. They may even create a custom domain name to make their email address look official. Spear phishing. Scammers who want to hit a specific target will resort to spear phishing. They gather information on their victim before impersonating a trustworthy person, business, or automated message. Clone phishing. Most phishing emails are sent to victims at random, but in some cases, a scammer will send you a duplicate version of a real email. If you receive an order confirmation, for example, a hacker may send a copycat order information containing malicious links or attachments. Pop-up phishing. Pop-ups are still a common vector for scams and malware. Modern pop-up phishing attacks usually take advantage of a browser's notification settings to send you antivirus warnings. Angler phishing. The world of social media lets scammers angler fish for victims. Essentially, scammers will impersonate a public figure or company on social media. Someone may impersonate a YouTube creator to share scammy sweepstakes links in a video's comments, for example. Whaling. When a phishing attack is aimed toward an important person, such as a CEO, it's called whaling. These targets are often wealthy, easy to blackmail, or have access to a corporation's back end. Smishing and vishing. These terms describe phishing through an SMS text message or phone call. Most of the spam messages or robocalls you receive are forms of smishing or vishing. Here are some tips on how to avoid phishing scams. Due to the rise in remote work, phishing is more popular than ever, and we expect it to remain a huge problem for individuals, corporations, and governments. Phishing scams can be quite sophisticated, so even if you're computer literate or use an antivirus software, you need to keep your eyes peeled. Scrutinize every email or SMS message that hits your inbox. If someone sends you a URL or a file, don't open it unless you can verify the source. And I'm not just telling you to look at the sender's email address or phone number. Try to contact the organization or person who supposedly wrote that email to verify its authenticity. There are some things you should never send through an email or text message. If someone asks you to type out your social security number or credit card info in an email or text, ignore them. Your bank won't ask for this stuff on such an insecure platform, and neither will the IRS or any other reputable company. Some scammers are bold enough to phish through phone calls. They may even impersonate the police, the bank, or your employer. If an unknown number calls and asks for money or sensitive information, hang up. You can always call back using an official phone number from the organization's website. To reduce your chances of being phished, set up spam filters in your email client. You may also want to install an antivirus software and disable website notifications in your browser. Since phishing attacks are so common, I suggest taking some preventative measures to reduce their impact. Use a password manager to create unique passwords for every account and enable two-factor authentication on all websites, as it will lock out scammers even if they have your password. You can also activate a fraud alert through a credit bureau to prevent new lines of credit from opening under your name. I hope this makes you a little more cognizant of all the different types of phishing scams that are out there. Stay safe. One way to lessen our exposure to these malware and security threats is to be cognizant of our digital footprint. Know what your digital trail says about you before it causes you problems. If you're online and you're active online, you have a digital footprint. Everyone does. Every comment made on social media, every news article shared, and every purchase made online contributes to a person's data trail. Your data trail reveals a detailed picture of who you are and what you like. This data is valuable and often monetized by free services and apps like Facebook, Google, and Twitter. When you're logged in, you're being tracked across every page you visit. There are costs and benefits to go with your data trail. For example, when sites know what you like, you see more relevant ads for products and services that appeal to you. When you allow cookies from websites, they remember what you've seen or clicked on and can make your visit faster and less repetitive. Some things can never be erased. Elements of your digital footprint can be searched or shared by others, and something that you thought you were sending as a private message can easily be shared with a larger audience, which can be embarrassing or hurtful. Worst of all, once it's on the internet, it's there forever. Just ask ex-Congressman Anthony Weiner. Remember, the internet never forgets. And here's how this works. When you visit a website, it collects information about you by installing cookies on your phone, tablet, or computer, your computer's browser. This information includes your IP address, which is a unique address that identifies a device on the internet or a local network. It also records your login details and anything else about you that you reveal or gets posted about you. When you choose to post on social media platforms, sign up for newsletters or text alerts, or agree to install cookies by clicking Accept on a cookie consent banner on a website, you are leaving a data record of your activity. Your digital footprint is basically your online reputation. It can be helpful or harmful. What you say online can impact your everyday life. And managing your data trail isn't only about privacy and data security. Employers, schools, and law enforcement could use your online activity on social media to make character assessments. So it's important to keep your online identity positive. Imagine what someone might think about you based on your actions online. Additionally, you may not always be aware of the digital footprint you're creating. Examples of hidden data collection include websites that install cookies without telling you, mobile apps and sites that use geolocation to determine your location, and social media ads or news sites that profile you based on your likes, shares, and comments to serve you advertisements that relate to your interests. Now that you're aware of some of the ways you're leaving a data trail online, the next step is to keep your reputation positive and your data secure. You already know that everything you share and do online is permanent and can either help or hurt your reputation. While some things like viral videos and mega memes can never be fully scrubbed from the web, most places that host your personal information can be adjusted. And here are 9 tips for a cleaner digital footprint. Put yourself in the shoes of those who want to learn more about you, whether they are recruiters, hackers, or vengeful exes. It's important for you to know what they'll find by simply searching for you. Use multiple search sites since they can yield different results. And if you had a username, also search for it. I still miss my ex-husband, but my aim is improving. Scrub your public data. Real estate websites and whitepages.com may have more information about you than you might want available to the public. We're talking about personal information like your phone number, age, and even your home address. Contact those websites and have that information removed. Audit your accounts. During your name search, you may have come across old social media accounts, posts with insensitive, outdated jokes, or embarrassing blog posts in which you overshared too much of your personal life. Culture changes, and you deserve to change for the better with it. Dig up everything you've ever posted and evaluate it with fresh eyes. Archive and delete. After evaluating your posts for privacy risks and negative content, it's time to edit and delete. Close any accounts that aren't doing any good for your reputation, both now and in the future. And remember, some content can never be fully deleted, even if you think it's private. Law enforcement and hackers can still dig up things you don't want shared. It's best to never share negative posts in the first place. Again, the internet is permanent. Adjust privacy settings. Review your account settings in your browser and mobile apps. Minimize the exposure of your personal data by limiting what people can see. This includes your photos, posts, location, and personal information, like your address or your birth date. Clear your browser history. Even if you believe every website you've ever visited has been safe for your reputation, it's a good idea to clear your browsing history on a regular basis. Using the shortcut keys of Control, Shift, and Delete will erase that information on almost all websites. Better internet privacy prevents history sniffing and helps your browser run faster. Clean up your computer. Temporary files, duplicate files, files you thought you trashed, and low-res photos can all slow down your computer and create a security risk. Using CCleaner for both your Mac and PC to clean up your computer and get it running fast again. Clean up your phone. The more you use your phone, the more junk it collects. Old text messages, cookies, images, and browser history data take up a lot of storage. If the data doesn't exist, it also can't be used against you. Plus, your phone performs better. Clean things up every few weeks. And yes, you can use CCleaner on both your iPhone and your Android phone to get rid of that garbage. Be mindful of others. You can create a bad online reputation without writing a single word. Think before you share or repost negative content. When you repost their words and ideas, they become yours. Be especially careful with humor around sensitive topics, including race, religion, and politics. When you post original photos, remember that some people have different levels of online privacy than you. Ask permission before you tag others online, or even better, ask your friends to tag themselves. Realize that blowing out someone else's candle won't make yours shine brighter. Remember, it's better to be proactive about being positive. Don't post anything that you don't want to come back and haunt you in the future. The internet never forgets. Also, keeping your data trail clean isn't only about your reputation. The junk you allow your devices to collect puts your internet privacy and security at risk. Now that we've covered some of the dangers facing us in the digital age, let me share some tools that will make the job of staying safe a bit easier. And the first one is CCleaner. It's a small, effective utility for computers running Microsoft Windows and Mac and also Android that cleans out the junk that accumulates over time, such as temporary files, broken shortcuts, and other problems. CCleaner protects your privacy. It cleans your browsing history and temporary internet files, allowing you to be a more confident internet user and less susceptible to identity theft. I recommend that you install the portable version. You can install that right on a thumb drive and then take it from one system to the next. Program and app security, just follow these tips. Only download from sites and app stores you trust. Only deal with companies you trust. Never download illegal software. Never use a password generator or cracks to bypass paying for a product. Scan your download for malware. Test the program in a sandbox. And if you really aren't sure about something, back up your system before you install it. That way, if something goes wrong, you've got a way of going back. Recover for both Windows and Mac. Helps you to recover deleted files quickly and easily. Have you ever accidentally deleted an important file? Lost files after a computer crash? Not a problem. Recover recovers files from your Windows computer, recycle bin, digital camera card, or MP3 player. You can also use it if you have a Mac, because it does the same on your Mac. It's important to get in the habit on a regular basis to back up your system. If you don't back it up and your system crashes because of hardware failure or an infection, you're going to lose all of your personal information. You can always reinstall the operating system in your programs, but it's your personal information that's at risk. Your photos, your data, your emails, all the important stuff. That's what's at risk, and that's what you can't recover once it's gone. My system is a Windows computer, and I use something that's been there since Windows 7. Windows Backup, Restore, Windows 7. Don't let the Windows 7 scare you, because this works in the very latest release of Windows 11. My systems are all running 22H2, Windows 11, and this is still what does the image backup every single week. It's also important to update your programs and apps, because when there's a security problem with any of the programs and apps, it's usually the update that addresses those problems. What I use for that is called Patch My PC Home Updater, and the next little video will tell you more about it and why I think you should all be using this program. One free app that's been a pleasure from the day I first started to use it. It's Patch My PC Updater, and I never know it's there until it's time for it to do its job and let me know there's a program that needs to be updated. And we all know keeping your programs up to date is just as important as keeping your operating system up to date. And it just let me know I have 3 programs that need updating. And it's very simple. Just hit the button that says perform the 3 updates. At this point, it just goes out and does the job. It doesn't bother me. And as you can see, the job is done. My programs have been updated, and I know my security on those programs are as up to date as possible. I'm going to put a link to the download for this program in the notes for this video. Something I think everyone should be using, and it's capable of updating over 300 applications. And if I scroll through here, you'll see there are lots and lots of programs and lots of different categories. And the only ones that it ever does anything with are the ones that you have installed. And if you install something new, 9 out of 10, it's probably part of something they're already capable of updating. Stay safe, stay secure, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye. Those programs that are listed, you not only can use it to do updates to them if they're installed on your system, but if it's something you want to install on your system, you can also check it off and let it do the actual install. The program that I use anytime I have a problem with my internet access is called Complete Internet Repair. Whenever I have a problem with my internet access, this is my go-to tool. Provided the problem isn't with my internet service provider, I run the tool, check the top 5 boxes, and let it do its work. Once it's done, you have to restart the system for those changes to go into effect. I personally have never ever not had my internet access back after using this tool. The exception, of course, is if the problem is between you and your internet service provider. For that, you have to contact them and straighten that problem out. For everything else, this has always done the job for me. And so we don't wind up with people with writer's cramps, Art will get a follow-up email from me that will contain all the information about all the things we talk about and a whole lot more that'll be passed along to everybody else. It's also important to learn the ins and outs of your system, both hardware and software. And what I use for that is called Specky. Nice little program, and you'd be surprised just exactly how much information about your system this reveals. Before you install any program, the first thing you should be installing is called unchecking. Installers often try to sneak additional programs as a natural part of the installation. Unchecking will warn you when somebody tries to install something that's other than the programs you actually asked for, and will give you an option to uncheck that pre-checked box. Most people, unfortunately, always use the default install. And when you use default, you're going to get whatever the company wants to pass along. You should always be using a custom install, because then you get to see what's being installed, where it's being installed, and you can uncheck anything you don't want installed. Well, if you use the default install, at least have unchecky at your back to check and make sure if it tries to sneak something past you, because it will warn you, let you know, and allow you to bypass and not install the garbage. Passwords need to be long and strong, and you have to use a different password for everything that requires a password. As it says here, passwords are like underpants. Change them often, keep them private, and never share them. I've listed some of the more popular password managers. I personally have used LastPass for many years, and about 8 months ago, I started using Bitwarden. So I actually have 2 password managers running. In case LastPass decides to quit tomorrow, I have Bitwarden that still has my back and my passwords. Or if Bitwarden quits, LastPass still has all of my information. So I don't wind up all of a sudden, because I use only one password manager and it quits, there go all my passwords. Two-factor or multi-factor authentication. Two-factor is an extra layer of security used to make sure that people trying to gain access to an online account are who they say they are. First, the user will enter a username and password, and then instead of immediately gaining access, they'll be required to provide another piece of information. That second factor could come from one of several different categories, the most common being either a smartphone, an email address, or some other biometric device. Basically, a hacker is likely to steal your username and your password, but they are not likely at the same time to also have stolen your smartphone. And if they don't have that smartphone, they're not going to get the code you need that has to be entered in addition to your username and password. So they won't get into the account because they can't get the information needed. This is especially important anytime you have anything that involves dealing with money. VPN, virtual private network, staying safe when connecting to a public Wi-Fi. Any public network is something where you don't control its security. And anytime that happens, you need a VPN to keep you safe. The next little video will show you how a VPN securely encrypts your connection and thereby keeps you safe. So how does a VPN securely encrypt your connection? If you're shopping for a VPN, you'll have seen how services boast about having the best encryption and how important it is that you secure your connection using cryptography. But how do VPNs encrypt your connection, and are there different types of encryptions to choose from? VPN tunnels. To explain how VPNs encrypt your connection, we need to first look at so-called VPN tunnels. Normally, when you visit a site, you connect to a server operated by your internet service provider, which redirects you to the site you want to visit. When you use a VPN, you're rerouting your connection. Instead of going from the internet service provider's server to the site, you first go through a server operated by your VPN provider. This gives you a new IP address, which comes in handy for a number of reasons. But the VPN also performs another neat trick. It encrypts the connection from your ISP to the VPN server in what's called a tunnel. A VPN tunnel is an encrypted connection that prevents anybody else, including your ISP and the site you're visiting, from tracking you. The ISP won't be able to see the websites you're visiting, and the websites you're visiting won't be able to see your real IP address. Tunnel is a great name for it, as it works like it would if you were driving down the road. While in the open, anybody can see what you're doing and where you're going. But once you enter a tunnel, your whereabouts are anybody's guess. Of course, VPN tunnels aren't made with bricks and mortar. Instead, they're created by so-called VPN protocols, which we'll look at next. To establish a VPN tunnel, you need to use a VPN protocol, which is a piece of software that determines how a VPN talks to other machines on the network. A protocol can do a lot of different things, but most importantly, it contains information about what encryption is used and how traffic is routed through the server. As such, VPN protocols are very important, as they can determine the speed and security of your connection. There are a lot of different VPN protocols to choose from, but the best all-around one is called OpenVPN. It generally offers decent speeds while staying secure, which is of course the main reason why many people get a VPN. VPN protocols generally will give you the option of what type of encryption will be used in your tunnel, which is what we'll look at next. Encryption. VPNs keep your connection secure through encryption, which is a way to make messages unreadable by scrambling them to nonsense. To unscramble them, you need a key, a piece of code that serves as the lock for the scramble. This key, usually a mathematical formula called an algorithm, is also known as a cipher. How it works with VPNs is that your connection is encrypted when you connect to the internet, the start of the tunnel, so to speak. Once it arrives at the other end, at the VPN's server, it gets decrypted and sent along to the site you're visiting. The result is that the site sees the VPN's server IP address, and your ISP sees a stream of scrambled information. There are different types of encryption. To ensure that information stays safe, you need to use a good type of encryption, and not all are created equal. As a result, many VPN providers will boast that they offer military-grade encryption, which is just a fancy way of saying that they use the same encryption algorithm as the military. The most used encryption is the Advanced Encryption Standard, or AES for short, which comes in several variants. Each variant uses a different number of bits to encrypt its key. Longer offers more security. The most secure is AES 256, which means it uses a key of 256 bits and would take your laptop until the heat death of the universe to crack. In other words, it's pretty darn secure. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and get involved. Protecting the key. Well, it's secure except for one issue. The key itself also needs to be protected. To do so, it's usually secured using TLS, or Transport Layer Security. This technology is common across the internet and used in all kinds of technology, from cloud storage to HTTPS, a protocol you're using right now to read this web page. We know it's all very involved, but the upshot is that no intruder can crack the ciphers of a VPN tunnel. If you're using a VPN and they take security seriously, there's almost no way in which your connection can be cracked from the outside. I personally use and can highly recommend Avast's Secure Line. Just follow that link to reach the product. This is the latest product released by Avast. It's called Avast One. And the free version is Avast One Essential. Essential protection for your life today. It blocks viruses and malware with an advanced antivirus, keep intruders out with a built-in firewall, get extra privacy when you browse, bank, or shop, secure your Wi-Fi connection with a built-in VPN, and that VPN gives you 5 terabytes of data per week. So you have quite a bit that you can do totally for free. Find compromised passwords and help to speed up your computer. And this is available for Windows, for Mac, for Android, for iPhones, and for iPads. So almost everything that you connect to the internet with. Avast also offers an excellent Chromium-based browser, specifically designed to keep you safe when you do your banking and shopping. When you're in banking mode, you're totally isolated from everything else. So while you're in banking mode, nobody can see what you're doing, which is why anytime you do banking and shopping, you should be in that banking mode.
Browse the web faster and safer with Avast Secure Browser. Your browser is not as private as you think. Hackers, trackers, and ISPs are out to steal your data. But with Avast Secure Browser, you're protected. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi and unlock the internet with built-in VPN. Automatically block creepy ads that follow you around and slow you down. Create custom and security privacy settings. Then securely sync your data across multiple devices. With powerful encryption to protect your IP address, bookmarks, history, downloads, and online activity, it's all locked behind your PIN code or fingerprint to keep your data safe from prying eyes. For private browsing that's actually private, make the switch to Avast Secure Browser. Download free today.
My presentations are never done until we have a little bit of fun. For the remainder of the presentation, please unmute yourself. I'd like to know if my jokes are funny or not. Don't worry, when you get old, I'll feed you carrots too.
Yeah.
Here's a tip. When electricity is out, this is how you charge your phone.
Circular logic.
Answering the phone, Sheriff's Department Fraud Division sure has slowed down the telemarketer calls. If you live in a rural area, you see this type of truck quite often. And it's certainly nicer for it to say yesterday's meals on wheels. It certainly sounds better than to just say it's another load of crap going down the road. When a woman says, "What?" it's not because she didn't hear you. She's just giving you a chance to change what you've said.
There you go.
I'm trying to stay healthy, and here's my salad with bacon bits.
Cool.
Cool.
While we're on a health mode, this is something everybody should have in their refrigerator. You're not hungry. You're just bored. Shut the damn door.
For teenagers.
No, I get the munchies at night. Since I've started packaging my trash like this, my neighbors respect me. They say good morning with a smile and keep the music volume really low. Give it a try, it works. You only need to do this once.
Once for each neighbor, so they all see it.
Here's something highly recommended for
And
those
so
of
it's
us over
exercising.
50.
Over to the left and over. And over to the right and stretch those limbs. And then walk tall away.
Yeah.
Started doing presentations back in 2010. Didn't really expect to still be doing them now. Back in 2004, I became part of the Avast support forum, which helps people who have problems with their computers, whether it has to do with antivirus or any other problems. No, that's not a paid job. It's something because some of us happen to enjoy helping others. And in 2010, Avast asked me whether I'd be interested in doing presentations for computer clubs and any other groups that would be interested in cybersecurity related information. My presentations are always designed for the average computer user, not the geek. And if you know of any other clubs or organizations that would benefit from a presentation, please have them contact me. There's never a charge to the club or its members for my services. That's where Avast comes in. The arrangement I have with Avast is that they pay all of my expenses from the second I leave home until I get back. And that worked fine for the first 10 years. And then came a little pandemic, and I haven't left my house since. So there have been no expenses, and I haven't been able to go anywhere, and Avast has been getting a bargain. Time for me to get back out on the road, and I think my wife is probably also itching for me to do that.
We still get the bargain of having you, though.
Oh, yeah. Well, in a way, this is much easier because like in October, Cybersecurity Awareness Month, I'm all over the country. I was in Florida this morning, and I'm visiting you guys in California tonight. That would be a heck of a taxing trick to do if it weren't for the fact that Zoom doesn't matter. You can go from one place to the next just like that.
But you wouldn't be taking a taxi, would you?
I don't think so. Not from Florida to California. The link you see here would get you access to all the stuff we talked about, or wait for Art to send along that information, which I'll be sending out to him probably first thing tomorrow morning. Remember, here I'm an hour later than you are, and I'm an early bird. I'm usually up by 3:34 in the morning. So when it gets to be past 9, this is not my best time. I'm going to get out of this, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
You have questions? Unmute.
Got one quick question. First of all, thanks very much. The presentation was great. I got a question for you about your slides on VPN. I've seen some speakers recently say that the VPN is not necessarily needed so much since we're now dealing with a lot of sites that are HTTPS. And since all of them or most of them, or let's say banking ones, are HTTPS, that the advantage that we talked about for VPNs on, encrypting is really redundant. What do you think about that?
HTTPS only ensures the security of the site you visit.
Okay.
It says nothing about what happens before you get to the site or once you leave the site. And if you're connecting through an unsecured network, somebody could be listening to everything you're doing. That's where the VPN comes in, because it totally encrypts everything. Nobody knows who you are, where you are, what internet service provider you're using. They don't even know what sites you're visiting, because that's where that VPN and the tunnel through which you travel comes in.
Oh, I got you. So the HTTPS is solely for the content of those sites?
Strictly that particular site, correct.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
even that, unfortunately, can be spoofed.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Bob, I have a question.
Yep.
I've been following your presentations for years, and I've noticed that in the past you said you only use the free version of Avast.
Mhm.
Now, I've noticed that every time I use Avast lately, I get all these pop-ups saying I need to buy this or I need to buy that to correct something. What do you think about those?
You will get some of them on occasion if you're using the free version, because Avast is not a 501c3. It is a for-profit corporation. So those of us that are using the free one, well, you know, they'd like to make you a paying customer. There are some settings that you can do when you look in the settings of Avast. I can still share my screen, so let me do it that way because it's a lot easier. Get rid of this thing because we don't need it anymore. Okay, let me open up Avast. And you'll notice I use the free version. So menu, settings, privacy. No, wrong privacy one.
What?
General,
Oh, he was doing.
and then
was doing
personal,
Chemical,
personal privacy. And under here, the only thing you'll notice I have checked is share suspicious file samples with Avast to improve their security. So in other words, if I'm the first person to run into a brand new infection, that information is passed along to Avast so their lab can hurry up and come up with the protection for it. None of the other things. I don't want to help improve the app by passing along information. I have offers, which is where you get most of your pop-ups from, unchecked. And the last part is also unchecked. Only one item in here is checked. And I check your settings and make sure you do the same thing. And you'll find out that you cut what you see on pop-ups down to a bare minimum. Yes, there are occasions when you will get a pop-up, but that's very seldom. If it's happening quite often, it's because you probably have all of these items checked, which is the default setting.
Great, thanks very much.
You're quite welcome.
Question.
Hi, Bob.
Hey, how are you, Will?
Good, good. Glad to see you again. I've been following you, I guess, for the last 12 years. Now that you mentioned you started in 2010. Question though, I think in the past you said that Avast is located somewhere in Europe, but you're very close or even connected to another security company. I've forgotten what that company is. Very famous one.
It just became final on September 6th or 7th. Avast merged with Norton LifeLock.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you.
Which virtually changes nothing because it just simply means it's one parent company, because the guy who was the CEO of Avast is now the president of Norton LifeLock. There are still Norton LifeLock, and there is still Avast, and there is still AVG. And if you remember some years back, AVG and Avast merged. And it really changed nothing because those that were using AVG are still using AVG. Those that used Avast are still using Avast. Those that are using Norton LifeLock are still using Norton LifeLock. What is going to happen is you're going to have a combination of protection, the best parts from both companies, and we will get on all of those different products that combination of the best protection. So there will be some changes in the protection, because I'm sure Norton LifeLock does have some good features, and Avast has good features, and now they'll take the best of both and make one product out of it. But they're not going to get rid of the brands, because there are some people out there that don't like Avast. There are some out there that don't like AVG, and there are a whole lot that I know that don't like Norton LifeLock. I was one of those, because that's originally what I started with, was Norton Antivirus. And then it became Symantec. Okay, and now it's Norton LifeLock.
I agree with you about Norton. I had Norton, and trying to get rid of it from your computer was almost impossible.
Well,
It
they
took
do
over
have
your
a
computer.
they do have a tool that makes removal quite a bit easier if you can get a hold of the tool.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
Ray,
Question.
go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, talking about cookies. I usually run CC Cleaner about every time I shut down or at the end of the workday. And I get a whole bunch of new cookies every single time. About how often and what's the best way to fight cookies?
Okay, there are cookies and there are cookies. Third-party cookies, I don't allow, and that's a browser setting change. In your browser, you choose what cookies you want to accept and what you don't. Third-party cookies, which is what gets you all the ads and the pop-ups, those you don't want. Normal cookies are just there for your convenience. If you sign into a site, if you have certain places that you frequent, if you have certain products that you go back for, all of those are part of the information in the cookies. And if you want to have it easier when you navigate a site that you frequent, there's nothing wrong with leaving those cookies alone. For me in CCleaner, I have exceptions that where I select cookies that I don't want CCleaner to touch. Because if they erase them, when I go back to the site, now I have to sign in all over again. It gets to be a real pain, okay? But you do want to make sure that you go into your browser under privacy, in cookies, deselect third-party cookies. Does that help?
I'll have to go look at that. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
Yeah, just a little note on that browser. Every time it updates, you better go check see if that box for the third party is still checked, because sometimes they uncheck it on you.
Very seldom, but it can happen. Just like when you do an update in Windows, sometimes your settings change.
Oh,
And
they will.
sometimes they reset your defaults to what they want them to be. So,
Yeah, Windows is famous for that.
mhm. If there's nothing else, thanks much for having me. Good night, folks.
Right. Okay.